Hey guys, Gabe Suarez here. Okay, it's going to be a catchy name for this video. Fixing jams. Wow, that's like hand me your clip. But I thought, why the hell not? This ought to, rankle some feathers as it was. Okay, what we're talking about here is keeping your gun running in a gunfight. Okay, because sometimes they're stoppages. Some people call them malfunctions. So we're going to address the old way that this was taught, i.e., at the old front sight, and a lot of places are still doing this in the way that I teach them, and why. Okay, so follow along with me. Get on this side here. Okay, so the old system. Okay, the need to reload, in other words, running out of ammunition, was taught completely separate from all of this. Okay. It was very diagnostic, meaning that you had to visually examine the weapon. We're talking pistols here, but visually examine the pistol and determine what it was that you had. In that sense, the reloading was very much the same, but it just was not taught in this context. Okay, you had to look at the weapon, identify what the problem was, and then every type of possible stoppage identified and attached to a specific solution. Okay, so it was very thought heavy. You had to think about what was going on. Very analysis heavy. You had to analyze what was going on with a pistol and apply the proper technical solution to it. So very time consuming. And I remember when I was teaching in front sight with my buddy Mark Fleischman. This took an entire afternoon. Because you had to teach them how to set it up, and then they had to practice and everything else. And the thing was, I noted that when someone had an actual malfunction during a firing string, it always took them twice as long as what we thought it would take. Like, for example, if I had a student set up, failure to fire, for example, they would be able to figure that out, because they looked at it, they knew what the solution was, they would do the tap rack. And they'd be able to get back on target and fire like within a second. So it was pretty amazing. But when they had that same occurrence unexpectedly during a firing string, there was always that lag time, like my gun didn't work. Oh, hell, I got to look at it. What is it? Oh, it's this. And then they put the solution in place. So it wasn't a 1-second solution. It was more like a 3-second solution. Okay? Because it required thought and analysis and then technical application. Okay, so I thought that was a little too much, and it seemed like the objective was not to fix the gun and get it back in the fight. The objective was to use this particular technique, so you could score better points and things like that. This system is still, for the most part, the kind of like the standard that a lot of people are following. Some schools, they don't even teach you how to fix these problems. They assume, well, the percentage of times that you have a malfunction in a gunfight is like minimal, so we're not even going to bother. Some schools aren't even teaching people to reload their pistols. Can you believe that? They talk about lowest common denominator underachiever mentality. Okay, I don't do that. Okay, I teach to the highest common denominator, and I raise the bar, and I expect my students to attain that bar, and it's not impossible. It just requires focus and desire. And the way that I teach this is very easy to grasp. Okay, now, the new method, my method, this is what I teach. Okay, over here. I'm going to call it the Suarez system. Okay, just because I want to sound like I'm arrogant on the video here. But, it's non-diagnostic. We'll just call it that. Okay, so all unexpected events with your pistol are handled in this context. Okay, now the context is this: there's a bad guy there, he's trying to kill me, I'm trying to kill him right back, and my gun doesn't work. Okay, it could be because it's out of ammo, it could be because I've had a malfunction, I don't know, and I don't really have the time to analyze what the hell's the matter with it. Okay, so I handle all unexpected occurrences with my pistol in this context. Okay, non-diagnostic, that means that I don't have to take my eyes off of my adversary to refunction the gun. We had a guy, shout out to Rick, from Front Sight, and very much an advocate of the old school. Okay, and I'm teaching this, and he's got this look on his face like, I don't know. He's a very intelligent guy, very successful, and I go, okay, listen, I know you're a sharp guy. Let's try this experiment. And I brought him out in front of the class and I blindfolded him. Okay. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you this pistol. Your job is to make it fire. Okay. Remember what I taught you. And I taught him the flow of how I work this thing. And we kept handing him pistols with different types of malfunctions in it. And he was able to fix them in less time than in the old way, guaranteed every time without ever having to look. Okay. So after a few minutes, he takes the blindfold off. He goes, okay, I'm sold. This stuff works better. Okay. All right. So all unexpected events handled together, non-diagnostic. I have sweeping holistic solutions. Again, the objective is to refunction the gun and kill the bad guy. The objective is not to use a type 1 clearance or a type 3 clearance or whatever. My objective is to fire a round, okay? And I'll do whatever I have to do to get the gun back into the fight and regain the advantage, okay? Minimal analysis, and I retain adversary focus. The big problem with having to analyze and diagnose what's going on is that you are going to be looking downrange at the guy that's trying to kill you. You're not going to want to come back and look at the pistol if this is in the middle of the fight. And ostensibly, this is how this is going to present itself, because you are firing. In order to experience a malfunction, you have to have tried to fire the weapon, right? Okay, now I'm going to make this disappear and I'm going to put up some new stuff. Stand by. Okay, guys, I'm back. All right. So let's talk about the expression of the old system and the new system. I'm going to move back over here. Okay, so the old system, the way it worked like this is you had type 1, type 2, type 3, and an empty gun. Now remember, I'm including this in context of what we're doing, but the way it was originally taught, they taught speed loads and they taught tactical reloads. A lot of schools still do that, okay? Or your own training, I suggest that you include the issue of running out of ammo as part of this context here. But anyway, type 1 was failure to fire, right? Type 2 was failure to eject, aka the stovepipe. Type 3 is what the uneducated call a double feed. There's no such thing as a double feed. What this actually is a failure to extract. That means that the fired case, you've got a round in there, the weapon fires, the case remains in the chamber while the slide cycles because the extractor slipped off the case rim and it reciprocated all the way back, picked up a new round from the magazine and fed that right up the back end of the case that remains in the chamber. And by the way, it's a case, not a casing. Casing is what they make sausages with. All right. And then, of course, you have the empty gun. Now, I include the empty gun in here because running out of ammo, going to slide lock in a gunfight is an unexpected event. You're not doing that on purpose. And when this happens unexpectedly, you're not going to know that that's what you have. Okay, so, all you're going to know is I'm trying to shoot this guy and my gun's not working. Oh me, oh my, what do I do? Okay, and so I include it as part of this. The other issue is this. There are many times when your slide will not lock open on the last round for whatever reason. It happens now and again. I see it in class, in almost every class I teach, at least once. And it's got to do with a number of different, maybe your thumb was in a different position or the spring on that magazine, it just got to the point where it's a little worn out. Who knows? It doesn't matter. The point is that if your slide does not lock open on the last round and you now press the trigger, what do you get? Well, you're going to get which seems like a type 1, okay? All right, so what used to happen is you have these set up, and then the idea was that you look at your pistol and you determine, okay, which one is it? And then you figure it out, you go, oh, it's this one, and then you execute the solution for that. Now, the problem is this. There is a thing called Hick's Law, which what it says is this, that for every possible solution to a given problem presented, you have to consider that solution momentarily before abandoning it and going to the next one. So here's Hick's Law, all right? You've got your gun didn't work. You got 4 possibilities. Okay, here we go. Take talk. Is it a type 1? Is it a type 2? Is it a type 3? Is it an empty gun? Oh my, what do I pick? What do I pick? Oh, it's this one. Okay, so there's a lot of lag time, a lot of requirement to look at the pistol, a lot of requirement to analyze the pistol. And in the meantime, your adversary is doing what? Pew, 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 right toward you. Okay, chances are one of those pews is going to get you while you're trying to figure out which one to put into practice. Okay, this is a flawed system, and I abandoned it about 15 years ago. This is what I teach now. Okay, the Suarez system. Okay, or the non-diagnostic system. I don't want to sound like Chuck Taylor and start naming things after myself. Okay, so there's three things. You do a tap rack, you reload, or you reboot. Anytime the gun stops unexpectedly, you do a tap rack. Okay, and I'm going to show you here with dummy ammo in just a couple of minutes here. Okay, anytime the gun stops, you do a tap rack. Okay, now that will fix the type 1 and the type 2. Okay, tap rack will fix failure to fire. Tap rack will fix failure to eject. 2 with 1. Okay, why not? If that works, right back to it. There used to be this thing, again, from the internal affairs world. Okay, there's tap rack and assess. You know how I assess? I press the trigger. Okay, that way I know it worked. No, the bad guy is not going to have surrendered by the time you do the tap rack. Sorry, it doesn't work that way in the real world. Last day for surrender was yesterday, and there are no rain checks. Okay? All right, so anytime the gun stops, tap rack. If that works, get back to shooting. If the tap rack doesn't work, it's because you either have an empty gun or you have a failure to extract, aka double feed. Okay? So what do? Reload. You extract that magazine out of the pistol manually. Because you're under duress, you let it drop. You don't hang on to it. You don't have time to hang on to it. Okay? You reload, you rack the slide, you get back into business. Okay? That will fix the empty gun. That will fix the failure to extract. Okay? Now, we have a backup just in case. Okay? Because sometimes, you get these crazy compound malfunctions where they're kind of a type 2 3/4, and it's like, oh my God, what the hell is this? Okay. When your computer goes Tango uniform and you got crazy stuff, what do you do? What do you do? Unplug it, count to 30, plug it back in, or you reboot it. Now, we don't have to count to 30 with a pistol. How do you reboot a pistol? Unload it completely, reload it completely. Okay? So, and I'm going to show you the mechanics of doing that. So, tap rack, reload, reboot. Now, look, you guys know how to do a tap rack. We don't need to spend 3 hours trying to figure that out. That's your first move. If that works, get back to shooting. If that doesn't work, right away, reload the gun. Rip that magazine out, let it fall, put a new magazine on board, rack the slide. Big, gross motor skills, okay? And all the while, your eyes downrange on the guy that's trying to kill you that you're trying to kill right back, all right? And if that doesn't work, you reboot it. Magazine out. You hang on to that magazine because it may be the only one you have left. Rack that slide, clear everything out of there, put that magazine back in, rack the slide one more time, and get back on the trigger and fix the problem. Probably doing this while you're running to get behind something or running away from the bad guy or something like that. But again, you can't do these fine motor skills things if you're hauling ass to get behind cover or hauling ass to get off the X or away from an adversary. But you can if they're not requiring your visual attention to do it. Okay, so tap rack, reload, reboot. Tap rack, reload, reboot. Okay? All right. Now, let's see what this looks like in execution. Okay, so let's talk about how this works. Okay, now, one thing that I'm very big on is get yourself some dummy rounds so you can practice working with your blaster. Okay? All right, so here we are. The first one, failure to fire or empty gun or what have you. Here's a failure to fire. I come up, I try and make the shot. I don't get anything. I get a dead trigger. I hit the bottom of the magazine, I grab over the top of the slide, and I get right back on it. Okay? That will have fixed the failure to fire. And this guy here, which I'm setting up for you right now, you've seen that one before, right? Okay, so it's the same thing. I come up, the trigger doesn't work, 1, 2, and right back on it. Okay? So both of those are taken care of with that. Now, what I have now is I'm going to have an empty magazine. Now, again, sometimes the magazine will not lock open on the last round. It happens, okay? But let's say it does. Okay, there it is. Okay, I come up, I try and shoot the bad guy, it doesn't work. I get this, the slide doesn't go all the way back. I know what I have. I get rid of that magazine, new magazine on board, and I'm back on target. Didn't have to look at the pistol, didn't have to think about that very much at all. Okay? All right, now let me pick up this magazine. Okay, now the next one, we're going to set up a failure to extract. Okay? And so what you do is you take a dummy round or a live round if you're on the range, drop that into the chamber. Okay? Then feed a magazine up behind it and let the slide go forward. And so this is what you have. This is what it looks like in actuality. Okay? All right, so I come up, I press the trigger, I get a dead trigger. Again, I'm in the middle of the gunfight. I don't have time to look and analyze and try to figure anything out. First step, I tap, I rack. That doesn't fix it. I get in here and I press the magazine release. At the same time, I rip this magazine out, okay? And I let it hit the deck. I access a fresh magazine, I insert it in the pistol, and I rack the slide over the top, and now I'm right back on target. Okay? All right. Now, so with the tap rack and the reload, I fixed pretty much everything there is to fix. 2 techniques solves everything. Now, in case you have one of those catastrophic malfunctions that, is just a PETA, and those solutions don't quite work, the next one is this. I come up, it still doesn't work. Okay, I extract this magazine and I hang on to it right here like this. The reason I hang on to it is because this may be the last magazine I have. I generally carry 1 spare magazine. Sometimes I'll carry extra if I'm so moved, but the majority of the time I've just got 1. Okay, so if I were to drop this magazine, if I get to this problem here, I've already had to exchange magazines once, so I'm going to retain this. I get in here and I work the slide a few times. I access the magazine, I insert it, I go right back in, and now I'm back at it. Okay, so tap rack, reload, reboot solves all the problems that you're going to see with your pistol. Now, it doesn't solve a mechanical breakage of parts. Okay, if you have that, then you need to start looking for some alternative tool to fight with. Okay, if you have a backup pistol or if you have a blade or something like that, because you're not going to change a broken part in the middle of the fight. Okay, so keep all that stuff in mind. Practice like that. Tap rack, reload, reboot, and all of these gun manipulation issues that seem so complicated when you go to basic school, they're going to be really simple. You train 5 minutes a day, you'll never have a problem functioning the gun in the middle of the gunfight. Okay, cool.